This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the place to go to if you want to set up your own slick-looking website or online store. Well, Lock uses diffusers for product shots now, don't you?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Just lens nowadays are too perfect.
Yeah.
But you want the lens to be perfect. So when you want, you can add things on later with filter. Because if the lens isn't perfect, you can't take it out. Yeah. Like the glow, like the vignetting, like the lens flare. And then you're going to say, oh, why not you get a lens?
Essentially, it's based on an all-time cinematography classic. I thought I'd give it a try, and I paid for my name to be put on the front. £80 just for that privilege.
Oh, so they contact you for review? You
No.
just buy it?
Yeah, I mean the 35mm, that's Dan's, so I didn't buy that one. But you know, last 50mm f2, that compact one that I showed you in the cafe, that I bought that, and then this one I bought it as well. It's a nicely made lens. It's all brass, very solid. It's an M mount, so you can use it for stills. And if you're just using it on a Leica, it's really just for stills. But with an adapter, you can use it for video, which is what the Speed Pancro is all about. Today's Triple LSP2 is a recreation of the cult classic from the 40s, the Cooke Speed Pancro. Even the aesthetic it creates comes with its own very catchy moniker, the Cooke look, which we'll come to in a minute. But first of all, Locke seems more interested in the way the lens looks.
That's funky.
You can actually change it. They've got one which is like a little stick, or this.
Oh. I think it's seldom you see they use actually good-looking Chinese font.
Yeah.
That's actually quite decent.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Mahjong sets or something.
Yeah.
It's a bit longer than I'd really like, the 50mm lens. I think it's just maybe a centimetre more than a Summicron or any 50mm lens needs to be for Leica. It just juts out a bit too much. It's probably about the size, maybe a little bit narrower than the Summilux f1.4 spherical. But when you put the hood on, look at that! Woof! It's more like a 75 or 90mm. Although it's slightly long, it doesn't encroach too much into the frame lines when focusing infinity. Closer focusing, well, that's a different matter. The shaft does start to shaft your frame lines a bit, and the rabbit ear focusing tabs come into. You can use the lowest focusing tab when you're at closest focusing to pull down the focus, otherwise your finger gets into the frame lines, because those focusing tabs do come quite far up. But anyway, the Cooke look, what's it all about? Well, on their website they say sharp, subtle, smooth rendering that provides dimensionality, high contrast, and pleases the eye. Flares, subtle even when pointing at a bright light source, soft and out of focus. Now, a lot of people point out that Cookes have a certain warmth in colour. On their website they say it's because they have a yellow bias. All lenses are colour matched. And then smooth transition from in focus to out of focus bits. Well, that seemingly applies to their whole range, from modern S4s to the classics. Their 50mm classic full frame is a $10,000 C lens. No direct comparisons in this video, simply because I can't afford to buy one of those. But what I can show you is what the Triple L can do for its considerably smaller price tag. Now, I do want to refrain from using such words as cinematic, because no lens is inherently cinematic, which is why I decided to use a subject that is inherently not cinematic. Yeah, let's have you posing somewhere like a skater without a skateboard.
That's my imaginative skateboard. And it do have the focusing thing, the coupling or whatever mechanism.
It's got it.
Oh.
The only thing is it doesn't have 6-bit coding. The old cinema lenses, it wouldn't have any coupling. It's not meant for Leica M. It's not just like the other 35mm replica of the Summicron or the replica of the 50mm Elcan. This is something that you wouldn't usually get for Leica with coupling. The Cooke look? I don't know, but the Light Lens Lab does cook up some nice warm skin colours. It's got its warm look, making the reds look a little juicier, and the contrast isn't as low as I thought it would be. Well, it is a modern multi-coated lens. At first glance, the wide open shots look noticeably soft. Well, what's even more noticeable is that sort of glow when shot in bright sunlight. You don't really see it too much when you look at this shot here, taken in the shade, indoors. But even then you can still see its softness, which lends itself quite nicely to portraits and close-ups. It takes off the edge off of the clinical crispness of digital. It looks flattering on faces. I mean, Locke ends up looking much younger than he actually is here. Oh yes, let's get creative. Let's get creative with the photos.
My imaginative skateboard around here, something. I'm holding it.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be?
The Cooke look, well, if you're looking at the classic, it's often used for its classic look, for the sake of making something feel a bit more retro. Period dramas, for example. Or just making close-ups of things and people's faces look less harsh-like. You could line this triple L for the same reason. And if it's the perfection of imperfections you're after, then there's plenty of stuff to talk about here. Flaring is, well, there's an abundance of it, but that's all the rage these days. Good looking flare, that is. There's ghosting and flaring aplenty. It is flaring that is soft and easy on the eye though. You know, I'd say it's pretty cool looking. It does suffer from vealing also. That lowers the contrast right down. And it's soft on edges and there's noticeable vignetting wide open. By f2.8 the glowing becomes less obvious. At f4 it gives optimal performance. I say optimal in the sense that you're still getting a little bit of that softness character without having all of those imperfections completely taken away. I mean, at f8 it looks nice, but if you want nice, you'd buy another lens, right? And let's talk about the bokeh. There's some lines there in the background. Does it blend away? Probably not. I think some people like the bokeh on this. I would say it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's something that just melts away into the background. I think the centre bits are actually better than the outer perimeter. Although that becomes less pronounced as you focus it at its closest focusing distance. No swirlies, sometimes harsh. Doesn't particularly grab your attention, but sometimes that is what you need. Has it got character? Well,
That's one way to put it.
yeah.
But yeah, any crappy bokeh, there would be some people like it. Oh, this is a lens from a projector. It's great. Great bokeh.
I don't know, it's weird. It seems like I'm saying more things that are usually associated with negatives rather than positives about lenses. It's just a really cool lens to use, and I like the results. And perhaps that's all that is important when it comes to buying lenses, not MTF charts. How accurate a Cooke look is it? Well, who cares? I mean, if it was really that important to you, you just buy or rent one. These Light Lens Labs lenses are supposedly recreations, but just take that with a slight dab of salt and enjoy them for what they are. Really well-made new lenses that offer up some very old lens qualities for not much money at all. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you want to set up your own domain, online retail space or website, it's super simple to get started and make your next move with Squarespace. With an easy to use interface filled with loads of templates and backed up with 24/7 customer service. You can try it out with a 14-day free trial and get 10% off your first order with this link and discount code.